Lesson 4 was a very short lesson about Iran. In fact, we only took about 10 minutes in class time to really focus on this lesson. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the vocabulary terms and provide you with a very, very quick review on the information from Iran. And maybe add a few things here or there. Nothing that will be on the test. Only the information that we discussed in class will be on the test. The early history of the country of Iran included the Persian Empire and a series of Muslim empires. Again, we talked about, if you remember in class, the movie 300 was about the Spartans, and they were taking on that very large Persian army. So you may have heard of it there. Persia is an empire that is from biblical times, so you could hear that in stories at church and things like that. It might be where you've heard of that empire before. Since the Islamic Revolution, the country is an Islamic republic, which limits the rights of many of its citizens. It is a theocracy, and we'll talk about that vocabulary term in just a minute. That was one of the terms that we focused on in class. In 1921, an Iranian military officer took power, and he encouraged the change in Iran's government. Whenever he took control of Iran, he took on the title, the old Persian title of king, and that was Shah. So for our first vocabulary word here on this page, Shah, that is just the Persian word for king. In 1978, the Iranians started a revolution, and it caused a drastic change in the country's government and way of life. And that is actually the definition of a revolution. It is a drastic change in the country's government and way of life. And we talked about several different examples of revolutions in class today as well. We talked a little bit about Francis Bacon and the scientific revolution, and how Jimi Hendrix revolutionized music with his guitar playing. So this is a revolution, though, whenever it's concerned with government. So it's a complete makeover of the government. By 1979, the Iranians had overthrown the Shah, and they set up this Islamic Republic. And the once good relationship between Iran and the United States, it disappeared. And in fact, in 1979, a mob of students attacked the U.S. Embassy in the capital of Iran, called Tehran, and with approval of the Iranian government, the students took more than 50 Americans who worked in the embassy hostage, and they held them hostage for over a year. Unlike most of the Arab people living in the region, more than half of the Iranians are considered to be Persian. They speak Farsi, which is the Persian language. Again, one of our vocabulary words there. They have one of the largest populations in Asia, roughly around 66 million, and 90% of those 66 million people are of the Shia branch of Islam. Only 10% of the country make up the Sunni branch of Islam. There are just a scattering of other religious people there. Some Christians, very few Jews, and possibly some pagans or members of other religions there. They are ethnically very diverse. Lots of Persians, Azerbaijanis, Kurds, Arabs, and Turks live in this country. They have a very, very young population. In fact, the average of those 66 million, the average age of the 66 million people who live there is about 27 years old. So they are very young. I believe that brings us down to our very last vocabulary word here on the page, and that is, what was a theocracy? We hadn't talked about that yet. So let's go ahead and just real quickly define that. A theocracy is a government that is ruled by a religious leader instead of a political leader. And in Iran, their religious leaders that run their country are called ayatollahs. Ayatollahs. It's kind of a funny word to say. Ayatollahs. The Iranian people, most recently, the United States hasn't gotten along with the Iranian people very well. And a lot of it has to do with some of their policies that they take in Iran regarding Israel and Jewish folks, also regarding terrorism. The Iranians believe that, many of the Iranian leaders believe that the Holocaust didn't happen, that it was just make-believe, something that was invented, and they really call for the destruction of the state of Israel. So they don't like that country there where the Jewish people live in the Middle East, and they would rather see that country belong to Arabs. The United States believes that Iran has in the past supported terrorist groups, some of which may or may not have attacked us and during 9/11 and other terrorist attacks. So that's another reason why our relationship is not very good with the Iranian people. And lastly, it also has to do with the fact that they follow their government. Their laws are based on Islamic law, and they're very strict and oftentimes very, very harsh to their people. And they're designed to kind of keep women from gaining education and keep people really in their place where they are. There's not a lot of social mobility there. And we think that in a lot of cases, we believe here in America that they violate human rights. So those are just some of the reasons why we have such disagreements with Iran. That's pretty much it for Lesson 4 of Chapter 9. I hope that you're watching these videos, and I hope they help you to prepare for the exam.